What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Conscious. I'm your host, Cody Bradbury, and I started this YouTube channel because I kept getting a lot of weird looks at work when all I wanted to do was talk about movies and quote movies and rank movies and movies. You can see how that could get a little bit annoying. Today we're going to be talking about my top 10 favorite guilty pleasure movies. Now, there's a little bit of a criteria for this. So, a guilty pleasure movie is a movie that you like, but a lot of other people don't. I guess that's like a rough definition of it. Examples. I have 10 examples right here. Some of these you may hate. Other of them you may like. This is my list. It's not the definitive guilty pleasure movie list by any stretch of the imagination. But with that, let's go on ahead and get to it. Coming in at number 10, came out in 1994, 95. Anyway, it's Mortal Kombat. Now, if you grew up in the 90s and you played video games, chances are you've played Mortal Kombat. You know, Liu Kang, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Shang Tsung, Raiden, Kano, Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage. I went through the entire first batch of fighters from the first Mortal Kombat game. And actually, that's all the fighters from the movie that are... Oh, and Goro, sorry. That are really worth mentioning. Now, in a world that Jean-Claude Van Damme also exists in, which is funny because that was who was supposed to be Johnny Cage, this movie was a martial arts movie that didn't necessarily strike the same chords as some movies like Bloodsport or The Kickboxer or any of Jean-Claude Van Damme's real big marquee titles. So, I mean, it's fun, it's cheeky, it's campy. You get to, watch Goro break a pair of $300 sunglasses and Johnny Cage gets into a fight with him about it. It's really good. I would suggest watching it if you like fighting movies or martial arts movies, but if you don't, then it's whatever. It's much better than Street Fighter, which came out a few years later, which did star Jean-Claude Van Damme. So, think of that how you will. Alright, coming in at number 9, we have Suicide Squad. Now, this movie came out and everybody was very excited about it. It stars Margot Robbie and Will Smith and Jared Leto. Jared Leto plays the Joker, and he does not do a very good job at it, but that's neither here nor there. I was excited for it. I thought it would be really good, and it is one of those enjoyable movies that you can just put on if you need some background noise, but it's not one that, unless somebody was like, hey, you want to watch this? I wouldn't just put it on if I were, sitting at home by myself wanting to watch something. I would suggest watching it at least once. It's not a bad movie. It just was not very well received. And Jared Leto's acting as the Joker was also not the greatest. All right, coming in at number 8, we have Resident Evil. All right, so this movie, based on a video game, Milla Jovovich stars as Alice. It's a zombie movie because Resident Evil is a zombie game series. I think you could have pieced that together. It's got gore. It's got lasers cutting people in half. It's got decapitations, the liquor, all that jazz. And it started a series that went down a rabbit hole that not a lot of people thought it would go down. But it's not a bad movie per se. They just weren't very faithful to the source material. So I watch it every once in a while. I think it's fun. It's campy. It takes itself way too seriously. I would suggest watching the whole series at one point. There was only, I think, 5 movies, maybe 6. They aren't terrible. They're just cheeky and fun. Whatever. Definitely at least worth watching the first 2, but definitely the first 1. Coming in at number 7 is The Greatest Showman. This movie came out to rave reviews from the audience and not very good reviews from the critics, and I'm still unsure why, because the soundtrack is catchy and the acting is not half bad. Hugh Jackman, and Zac Efron, for all intents and purposes, is always very good to look at least according to my wife, which we'll get to another one of those movies here in a second. It's a retelling of the Barnum and Bailey story, even though Bailey is not in this at all. People were speculating that Zac Efron's character is a rough draft of what Bailey was like. But Hugh Jackman plays P.T. Barnum, who is a down on his luck schemer, more or less, trying to make ends meet for his family, and music gets sang. So if that's your shtick, if you like that, have at it. I think it's a good movie. There's lots of animals in it too. I like animals, elephants and stuff. So if you like musicals, you like Hugh Jackman, you like Zac Efron, it's definitely worth a watch. And it makes you feel good at the very end. All right, coming in at number 6 is The Page Master. Now this movie I watched all the time. I'm pretty sure I wore out like 2 or 3 VHS tapes at my grandma's house whenever I was a kid watching this movie. It's really good. It's got I believe it's definitely got a post Home Alone, maybe post Home Alone 2. I don't know the year difference between those two. Macaulay Culkin in it, and he gets trapped in a library, gets sucked into like this world of absolute fantasy land, and Whoopi Goldberg is the fairy godmother book, and there's a horror book that's kind of like Frankenstein, and another an action adventure book where the guy's a pirate. It's another one of those feel good movies that you can watch whenever watched whenever you were a little kid, and it's like, oh man, I remember it being so much better, and then you watch it a couple times and it still winds up like making you smile, making you feel good about yourself, making you really nostalgic for the 90s. Lots of cartooniness in this movie. Actually, about 90% of the movie takes place in cartoon world. So if you're into that, I would suggest watching it. It's not a bad movie. It's just like one of those middling 90s movies that everybody remembers as being great, and then you read some critic reviews and you're like, yeah, I can see why they said that. All right, coming in at number 5 is Constantine. Now this movie came out in like 2005-6 time frame. It stars Keanu Reeves, post Matrix trilogy. This might have been actually one of his first big things after the Matrix Revolutions, and he plays John Constantine, who everybody knows, if you're into comic books at least, everybody knows is a demon hunter, a chain-smoking demon hunter, and then he goes on all this adventure with Rachel Weisz, who's famous for the Mummy movies, 2 of the 3 Mummy movies at least, with Brendan Fraser, and it's really good. There's some really cool action pieces, some really cool set pieces. When Constantine goes to hell, like when I think of hell, that's what it looks like. It's pretty decent. It's not one of those that I would watch on repeat, but every once in a while it's pretty good for decent viewing. Coming in at number 4, we have That Awkward Moment, and this is another, apparently I must have a huge crush on Zac Efron because I've got 3 of his movies on here. That Awkward Moment stars Michael B. Jordan, Zac Efron, and Miles Teller, and it's all about 2 of them are incredibly single. The third one becomes single towards the beginning of the movie, and they're living in New York, and it's all about how they are into the dating scene and all of the debauchery they get into. It's just one of those funny, like, oh man, I can't believe they get away with this stuff kind of movie. Also, never mind. Go watch the movie. It's laugh out loud hilarious. I think it's really funny. It's probably not my favorite Zac Efron movie, but it's definitely my second favorite. It's definitely one of, it might actually be my favorite Miles Teller movie, but that's only because I haven't seen Whiplash all the way through yet. So we'll see how that goes. Coming in at number 3, we're in the top 3 now. Wet Hot American Summer. Now this movie came out in 2001, and it's got everybody in it. Paul Rudd, Elizabeth Banks, Amy Poehler, Bradley Cooper, Michael Ian Black, or Thomas, I think it's Black, Janine Garofalo, the dude that plays Stabler in Law and Order, Niles from Frasier, I forget his name, David something or other. All those people are in this movie. And that's not to say that the you ever have that moment where you're like, oh, that guy looks familiar. It's got a lot of those faces in it too. It takes place. It's a set in the 1980s. Came out in 2001, like I said earlier, and it's about the last day of summer camp at a fictitious camp in like northern Connecticut or something like that. Hilarious. You should definitely watch this movie. If it's widely regarded as one of the best worst movies of all time. Laugh out loud funny. You get to see like a Nam vet say some off the wall stuff like you would expect a Nam vet to say. Bradley Cooper, I think that might be his first movie. He does outstanding in it. Amy Poehler's hilarious. Elizabeth Banks is hilarious. Paul Rudd, if I didn't mention him earlier, it's the reason that I bought a blue jean jacket last year, 2 years ago. Like, laugh out loud, hysterical, awesome, funny movie. Go see that one. Number 2, my silver medal winner, Out Cold. Now, this is one that slipped by a lot of people's radars. This movie takes place in a fictitious mountain town in Alaska called Bull Mountain. And it's about a real estate conglomerate guy, super business owner played by Lee Majors, did outstanding in this movie, buying this mountain town and trying to turn it into a luxurious resort. And as I'm sure you can already guess, the locals do not take too kindly to this. They rebel wholeheartedly, especially since most of the locals were just godfathered into the employment program with the new regime, if you will. Zach Galifianakis is in it. Jason London is in it. The guy that plays Roy from The Office is in it. He plays Lance, the bartender. Lee Majors, like I said earlier. The dude that plays Lieutenant Dangle in Reno 911, he's in it. Thomas Lennon. Absolute laugh out loud, hysterical, funny, sports, sophomoric humor, all that jazz. Like, if you just want to laugh until you piss your pants, go watch this movie. It's great. And my number one winner, the moment that everybody has been waiting for, I guess, is Baywatch. Now, not like one of the random movies that came out in the 90s. I'm talking like 2016, I think. The Rock, Zac Efron, Alexandra Daddario, that Baywatch movie. And that movie is great because you get to see a side of The Rock that not a lot of us had seen, or I guess probably none of us had seen until that point. He's hilarious. He's obviously, he should change his name to like the Boulder or the Mountain at this point because he looks yoked as all get out in that movie. He plays Mitch Buchanan, which is David Hasselhoff's character from the first, like the Baywatch series, and it's just funny. Zac Efron plays some like he plays an Olympic swimmer who fell from glory and joined, like, his community service is to join this Baywatch team and be a lifeguard, and it's campy and cheeky and everything you would want in a Baywatch movie. They have. It's even self-aware. They question why everybody seems like they're always running in slow motion in this movie, much like they did in the TV show. So, I mean, if you're into those kinds of movies, I would definitely give that one a watch. That's my favorite guilty pleasure movie. Thank you guys for watching my video, my top 10 guilty pleasure movies. I hope you guys enjoyed them, and I hope I gave you guys something to watch. Next week, I think I'm going to be doing a video. It'll either be on my top 10 favorite movie scenes of all time, which that's a really good one, or my top 5 favorite directors with either 3 or 5 of my favorite movies per director, which will be a kind of a long one. So hopefully we can get to the point where all of that will come out and it will all be good to go. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next week. Later.